earliest memories was born in Hungary. We sort of it was during like a war period. Dad was involved with the Second World War with the German army. Hungary was allies with America with Germany, and so he was in that war. All I can remember mainly is a little tot was hand grenades and machine guns and things like that under the beds and that, and I remember we had to escape because after the German war the the Russians were coming and trying to take over Hungary, so Dad was involved in that too. So we had to escape. It was a fairly scary sort of experience trying to get over the border, just the dangers and hiding in haystacks and avoiding patrols and things like that. It would have been drastic especially for my father and things like that. So yeah, earliest memory is just a dangerous and a dangerous escape. Then living in sort of migrant hostels, escaping to Germany over the border from Austria. Then migrant hostels landing in Bonagilla in Australia, in New South Wales. Just parents always struggling. Then Dad having to come down trying to get a job. We were in four of us were in one little room for quite a long time. The migrants weren't getting a lot of assistance then, but it's not that much better now. But anyway, then Dad got a job as a welder. Just worked extremely long hours, and so just general living was very hard. Dad put a lot of hours into it. We just went to school. He managed to put us through like a private school, Catholic school. It was fairly expensive. They gave us the very best they could. It was always difficult. We speak Hungarian at home, but just language problems in schools. Never really managed the language issue, and I remember managed to scrape through primary school, and then secondary school it was trying to learn Latin when you couldn't even speak English and French and things like that. So it made it fairly awkward, and so from there from the family life. Basically, the stress of what Dad was going through, he was and unresolved issues from the war. He was just starting to crack up, sort of thing, and we eventually had to escape from that, and we moved to. Mum had to escape. We moved into a flat down in Elwood, and continued to go to Elwood High School. Change of page. And anyway, at Elwood High School, I found I was just gradually picking up a bit. I was found a bit of advancement in sport. So managed to just get a little bit more confidence, and schooling improved a little bit. I was gaining a few social skills, and managed to pass Form 5. And then I had to move house again, and so it was fairly turbulent. But Mum, on her own, with 4 children, she did the very best she could, and it's a real credit to her. But as a kid, I was starting to just run off the tracks a bit, and Dad ended up taking his own life and not having any role models, and an adolescent boy running a bit amok and not being obedient to the mother, that sort of stuff. I got into housebreaking, just inner turbulence, lack of meaning, lack of direction, lack of purpose, that type of thing. I've always been fascinated by animals, and trying to wonder how does all those hairs on a cat live? All these sorts of all the lovely leaves and flowers and all. So it was that sort of thing intrigued me, and whenever I compared anything that I'd made, like a billy card or something, there was no comparison between a living thing and that. So that sort of thing always intrigued me. So it was a bit of a search and exploration. I did boxing for a few years. I looked at all the people who, making a lot of money and fame and power, and I tried all those sorts of things. That still found something missing, a bit like you two thing about, still something, not quite there sort of thing. Um, anyway, from there, because of the housebreak, I ended up offending and got caught up and landed in jail. But prior to being in jail, I managed to get a job in the public service, Commonwealth Public Service, and been there for about 3 years. But I'd be going to work during the day, then put on my burg clothes at night and go and do burgs. It was just one of those things that an unstable young person who's lacking meaning do. So I was going through that. But, I landed in Pentridge in around about September 1973, and they gave me a minimum of 12 months with 5-year parole. So just being there and all the props taken away, just the complete collapse. Just finding that all the things that I've been searching for were empty, and that I thought, well, there's just no point. Dad's suicidal. There's no real point in life, sort of thing. So, just in that deep down depression, I thought, well, look, in my upbringing there was this Catholic Church thing, but I don't trust the priest. I don't trust that sort of thing. I thought, well, as a last thing before I knock myself, I'll just better check to see if there's any substance at all. I don't trust him. So in the privacy of my own cell, I just totally yearning for help, and I was reading, the scriptures, reading the Quran, different sorts of things, just to see. I knew there was a lot of people who were spiritual, but I couldn't figure out the deeper meaning of it. And as I was reading the New Testament, especially and stuff, I just found that it talked about this caring being who knew things, who'd been there to make things, and that it's sort of. I thought, well, I'll just better check this out, and crying out and writing down, keeping a diary of the deepest issues. I found that somehow there was some way there was answers coming. I couldn't figure out. It was just blowing me out because I'd never talked to anybody about it, but the deepest yearnings were being answered, and I kept pursuing it, and it just bugged me. How could there be some response, And to cut a long story short, I just found that that this life of Christ, of being on the streets, of being homeless, of being a refugee, of his life being threatened and stuff, and facing massive injustices in the court system of his time, and trumped up charges. That sort of and his deep compassion of being amongst the homeless and being labelled for that. That sort of moved me, and I kept pursuing it. And probably over about a 3-month period, I found that there was substance. There was I was starting to put a bit of a pattern, a bit of a character, a bit of a personality behind this sort of thing. And gradually, this thing was. I was allowing this creative force to enter more into my life, and the teaching to make, to have impact on my life more. So I was pursuing empathy, compassion, caring, looking out for the other prisoners, being constructive in that context. And around about that time, there was a massive famine in Ethiopia around 73, and they had pictures of these poor people scrawny and dying and that. And I thought, well, we're sitting around here, all these poor people just wasting their lives, hours and hours, just walking the yards and that. And I thought, well, what could we do? And somehow the thought came to me that maybe we could do something from in here. So with other prisoners giving their thoughts, we decided to organise a runathon, which 52 prisoners in there for rape, for murder, you name it, them all wanting to do something constructive. And I thought, well, there's a lot of good in here. It's not all evil. These people aren't all evil. A lot of them trouble backgrounds. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we organised this run, and 52 prisoners ran 7 miles each within the perimeters. And through the help of the clergy, they contacted newspapers. We got sponsors, even sponsors from the Commonwealth government where I'd worked, and they ended up raising $7,000 for the Ethiopian famine victims. So it was just this type of moving of this goodwill and the spirit enabling me to do something creative. It was bringing me new direction, a transformation, and a zest for life and being creative. And from there, I kept pursuing this, and the people from the government, they they kept in touch with me because they could see what was happening. It was front page news on New Year's Day 1974, and they kept in touch with me, and um, they crossed their rules. Normally, if you're sacked from the Commonwealth government, you don't get taken back in, and they bent all the rules. They kept in touch, and I got out on a Friday, and I had a job back on a Monday. So it was quite a, once again, this creative force moving to, enable something creative to happen. So I was really fortunate with that. From there, managed to keep working, and Mum supported me, and got involved in a youth group and that, and then they were running a little drop-in centre for the homeless in Mentone, and I was involved in that, and eventually I coordinated that just on a part-time basis, just homeless youth and that, and it was really exciting to be able to relate to these kids who were troubled from parents who were drinking, that sort of thing, and then at the Salvation Army was starting up a program. At the time, the Commonwealth Government was giving grants under the Community Youth Support Scheme, and they offered me a full-time position, so I left the public service and took up a full-time position with the under the Community Youth Support Scheme, and worked there from about 1977 to about 1984. Worked full-time. It was a part-time salary. We shared our wages with. It was a Christian-based organisation, and just worked with all the young people, the different gangs, all the young people around Mordialloc Light down along the Frankston line. Holistic. Had camping programs, crafts, job board, job training, just a holistic approach, coming off drugs or alcohol. So it was just a creative way of trying to interact with the needs and that. I was going to working in the courts with the young people who were troubled and that. And then a bit down the track around about 84, I worked at Lifeline as a phone counsellor for about 5 years, and just gaining further skills and that. And then I bumped into a guy in St Kilda. Once again, my thoughts and my eyes were open to the deep needs there of young people struggling and drinking and drugs and that. And he was running a soup van, and he asked me whether I'd be interested. So I got involved with him, and the two of us were running that. We, people from the local churches would make about 300 sandwiches. We're taking hot soup, waterproof sleeping bags, clothing, different things, anything that kids would need during the night and that. And so we work with them every on a fortnightly basis. Different church people came in to give a hand. So it gave an opportunity for a wider community group to come in and be creatively involved. So we did that for around about 12 years. Then there was fairly big gentrification happening in St Kilda. The Grand Prix moved in, the Commonwealth Games, the casino. That brought in a whole new group of people wanting to live around St Kilda. All the rentals went up. They redeveloped the cheap boarding houses into apartments, and a lot of our people were being gradually pushed out. They were going to Dufton, Frankston, all those sorts of areas. So we just moved with the poverty, and there was a gradual transition moving from St Kilda to the outer perimeters. Just by the way, while I was at Lifeline, I also got involved in part-time studies. I didn't mention, but I'd failed because of the language problems. Failed year 7 and 8 at high school. Had to repeat that, and but I managed to get enough to get an adult university entry. And so whilst doing the homeless work, I was able to link the uni studies of community development theology, just a creative studies that would be directly involved, polish my skills to be more constructive with the working of these people. And so we did that, and with the gentrification of St Kilda, we moved around Frankston. The needs were there, so the work needed to be adjusted, moving from homeless youth and sandwiches to creative work with single mums. One of the most oppressed groups around that area, single mums who may have half a dozen kids to different dads and that, but really struggling, being left with the responsibility and being giving their lives for these children. So we got involved with that. Once again, we had women, different people from different groups, once again supporting us, and so it just shows a bit of an ongoing journey in this sort of work. We've now been working in St Kilda in the ghetto areas now for around about 9 years or so, and you know, in order to sort of sustain this, you know, me faith needed to mature from, you know, just a young person who's aware of a loving, caring being and relating to it, being to working through issues. Well, how do I work with Aboriginal people? How do I understand their spirituality? How do I work with people with living faiths, Muslim brothers and sisters, Buddhist people, spiritual people of other spirituality, and trying to understand that it's not a narrow, if there's a loving, caring being, it's not a narrow, I'm all right, Jack Bugger, the rest sort of stuff. It's looking for this compassion and how this compassion shows itself from other perspectives. So it's a journey of dialogue, of understanding, of relating to these people, and going on, sort of thing. But I mean, the historical Jesus has never, you know, has always intrigued me, and you know, I haven't been able to embrace any other thing totally, because I just find that even though what I'm finding through Muslims and Buddhists and Aboriginal enriches my understanding of Christ and broadens it, and the thing of loving your enemies, that's unique. Praying for your enemies, that's unique. That's unique to you know, this Christ, God, being coming down and standing up for justice and getting his head bashed in, and still praying for his accusers and his bashers and that sort of thing. And you know, no doubt my criminality and all that sort of stuff. The thing is that if there's a loving, caring being, the right thing would be to apologise for the destructive stupidity that I'd lived. No doubt mistakenly, but nevertheless I did a lot of destructive things. I wouldn't have been jailed unless it was bad. But anyway, it was a creative thing, and an apology was due to this God figure, and fortunately forgiveness was given, and a new start in that, and that's enabled me to keep going creatively. I need to stick close to this life force. Every moment I need to be aware of that's the one that's giving me the abilities to do what I'm doing. The relevant thanks goes there, the relevant royalties go to there, and I just wouldn't be sustained. I work extremely long hours, very little sleep, and I wouldn't be able to sustain what I'm doing without that, firstly with that direction and that support and guidance, and also clinging to that life force. So that's probably in a bit of a nutshell, Ian. But it's an exciting journey, costly journey, no different to what was set by this historical Christ figure. But I find it's the way to go, and I'm happy to continue to journey in this pathway. Thank you.